kind of like introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure, so my name is Briony and I am a meditation teacher. So I work with an organisation called Be and Do, and we specialise in modern meditation, which takes what is a very ancient art and science of meditation and makes it accessible for
What is your opinion about suicide?
It's ultimately a tragedy. I think it's a tragedy. It's interesting because I was watching a video about the history of Stoicism as a philosophy and as a concept, whereby it sort of came around, I think, in the ancient Greeks, and then the Romans were kind of into it as well. And it's about trying to identify what in life is really worth an emotional reaction in terms of, thinking about what you can control, what you can't control. From my limited understanding of it, I think. But within that, they mentioned about, like a lot of life is like pain, and if it reaches a point that things are so incredibly painful that it's okay to, either physically or emotionally, it's okay to call it quits, and to the ability to have control, that final say over your existence, like that, that was like the ultimate sort of power that you had, and that the state shouldn't define that, like you should be able to have the power to control that. So it depends on the conditions of what the suicide is, I think. So if someone's in a lot of pain and they choose to take their life, but it's ultimately like a snap decision, it's just a tragedy, because I think this life is a gift, and there's so much to learn. That said, I think that sort of like assisted suicide, for perhaps people who their quality of life is diminished in such a way and they want to die with dignity, that I think that actually there's a huge amount of compassion on that field for that situation, and thinking about I myself wanting to be able to have that sort of control, and it makes me feel like the idea that the state or the government would not allow me to make that decision, I think actually I don't agree with. So it's like I might not choose to come into this world, but it feels like the fact that I'm denied the choice, like I wouldn't be able to decide to go when I want to go, that feels to me like wrong.
But you don't need the government permission for that, though. People do.
Oh, I'm more like assisted suicide, so it's more that that itself is a crime.
Alright, okay. When it comes to people killing themselves, what do you think got them to that kind of like situation where they think they're just gonna switch off the light?
I think it's difficult to probably, because there's probably going to be, from what I understand of suicide, the kind of thinking process that's going on is that people are just wanting whatever situation it is to end, and you're not really thinking beyond your current circumstances. And so but everyone's experience is probably going to be completely unique in terms of what's led them to that point. So it's probably difficult. You wouldn't be able to sort of generalise and say it is this one thing that sort of that's the state of mind. But I guess that sense of isolation and loneliness, and perhaps for some people a cry of help. From what I understand, there's like a spectrum of reactions, and the severity from maybe having suicidal thoughts, which many people have, and it's quite normal and natural, to then actually choosing and planning. It's a different thing. So I think there's a variety of different thinking patterns that happen, and it's probably really conditional on that person's experiences of life, their upbringing, their all sorts of different things will influence it.
So what can be done to help someone thinking of suicide?
You mean in terms of, well, I suppose
they're thinking about it.
Yeah, I think firstly it's talking to people, so confiding in someone that they trust, someone that they know who cares about them, that they can open up, and recognising that even though those may be dark thoughts or violent thoughts or frightening ones, that it's okay to share them, and it's okay to feel those things, and to not keep them to yourself, because if you're keeping those things to yourself, then you may start to add on layers like guilt and shame on top of them. So it's probably important in the first instance to just reach out and tell someone. And there's so many amazing charities and organisations out there as well. And even though it can feel like it at the time, nothing is so bad, that it can't be fixed, or you can't let go of it, or you can't move through it in some way, shape or form. I'm very confident of that.
Okay, and then going to the GP, what about that? Going to see their GP?
Yeah, certainly, yeah. So I think, again, there's so many different avenues. So speaking to if you don't have someone that you trust or that you can confide in, then certainly in mental health care professionals or charities like Samaritans, and there's loads of different helplines. So I think if you look online, there's loads of even forums and plenty of advice. So it's like reach out in the first instance.